In this lesson, we will see how we can implement CRUD operations using Angular and Firestore. Here we are using the latest version of Angular, which is Angular 5, for this demo. We will quickly go through what we are going to build in this lesson. So here we have a simple navigation which has home and course. When we click on course, it will navigate to the list of courses and we have add course button. Click on it. It will display a form where we can fill the details and submit. It should add the record. There is an option for edit. Click on edit icon and we can edit the details in the form. Click on submit. You should be able to update the details. So there is an option for delete as well. So let's get started with the implementation from the scratch. Don't worry about remembering all the commands that we are running here and the website links that we are referring to, and also the source code, entire source code is going to be available in the Clouds.training website in the content section here. Open command prompt, run the command ng-new, name of the project, and -- routing is for routing module. By default, it will enable routing if we specify that command. So once download is successful, open the folder using Visual Studio Code Editor. Here I'm using VS Code. You can use any other editor of your choice. So these are the files. It is under source, index file, and under the app we have the main files like routing, component, app module, etc. Let's open the terminal by running Ctrl and tilde symbol. So here run the command ng-serve to compile the application and see the output. Once it is compiled, we should be able to access the application in localhost :4200. So here there are no styles, so we will use Bootstrap for this. Go to bootstrap.com and here we can copy the CSS CDN and add it to the index.html. Also add the scripts files to the index.html. So styles are updated. Let's go to component. In the component, let's clean up the existing code and add some Bootstrap styles for navigation. Here let's add the navigation for home control under UL LI home navigation, as well as let's add another LI for course. Here we are using router link for navigation. We cannot use href. In Angular we should use router link. So it still doesn't work. The reason for this is we need to generate the components and configure our route. So let's generate a component by running the command ng-gc home, which will generate a home component. Once this is completed, let's generate another component called course to list the courses from Firestore database, and add course is to add the course. So now our components are generated. Let's go to open app routing.module, import the components that we have generated and add the parameters to the routes array by specifying path and the component name. When it is empty, it will go to home component, and course for course component. When we click on add course button, it will navigate to add course component. So let's quickly test it out. Click on course works. Our simple navigation is working now. Let's go to home page and add some basic HTML. Here we can see when we generate a component, it will generate .css, HTML, .ts, spec.ts for testing. TS is a TypeScript file. Let's go to course component HTML and quickly add a button with the Bootstrap styles. Since we have imported Bootstrap, we will use Bootstrap button. Btn primary is for primary button. At this point, when we click on this button, it won't do anything. It will not navigate to the add course. For that, we need to add a router link. And now click on add course. It will be navigated to add course. So now we have our complete navigation. Let's quickly add a table for listing all the courses available from our Firestore database. So this is a header for the table, which contains ID, sequence number, name, description, category, and created date. These are the columns that we are using in this demo. Now we have decided the columns. Let's generate a class. Let's call it as course.model under models folder. For that, we need to use command ngz class. So the class is generated. Let's make it as an interface and quickly add the columns: name, description, category, sequence number, created date, is active, ID. So here we are using string type, number, date, and boolean. So this ID is to store the unique identification number for this course record. So let's create a body, table body. Under this we have a tr. We will loop this tr using ngFor, and the list of items will be stored in items. Let's quickly bind all the items, and for the date we are using date format pipe. We have the basic HTML ready for the course component. So now we need a service to get the data from the database. To perform all the CRUD operations, we need the service. So let's quickly generate that using NGX, which will generate the service. This service will essentially communicate with Firestore database for all create, read, update, and delete operations. So we need to import the package for the Firestore first. So for that, we need to run the command npm install Firebase Angular 5.2 save. Run this command, which will install the required files to communicate with the Firestore database. So once the installation is successful, we should be able to communicate with the Firestore database from this service. We can import the required packages from Firestore, which is Angular Firestore collection, Firestore document, and we need RxJS observable, and also we need the model. Create a variable for course collection using Angular Firestore collection, create course observable and course item, and course document for update and delete operation. Inject the Firestore service into the constructor, and we can create a reference to the collection using the service. Here we are using ordered by sequence number by referring to the course collection. We can use course collection dot value changes to get the list of courses. Now let's create a get courses method and use that in course component. Let's quickly create a get course, add, update, and delete methods. For get course, we are using the doc reference. For this reference dot get returns a promise, and we will check for if the document exists. If document exists, and the result we are mapping to the item that we have, item variable that we have created here, item.course. So if there is any error, it will catch. So we will return this item. This is to get a specific record based on an ID. So let's create add course method. Here I am using a custom unique ID for the document. So for that reason, I'm passing the ID, which I'm entering into the ID field. In case you want to use auto-generated ID, just simply use collection.add. So let's create update method. For this, we will use document reference and pass a document ID and use document.update method. Also, we'll create a delete method, which is similar to update, but we will use document.delete. Here I have logged into my Firebase account, and this is a 5-star database. Click on rules. For this demo, we are allowing all read and write operations. You can click on project overview and click on add Firebase app to your web app. So we will get the connection parameters for this database account. So click on copy. See, we are getting a nice alert. We will implement something similar to this in our example. We need to use the copied parameters in our application. For that, go to environments, look for environments, click on environment.ts. Here we will create a configuration for this. Let's call it Firebase config and copy the parameters from our Firebase database. Up to now, we have created our service, also created all the methods required to get, read, write, update and delete operations. And we have created a sample HTML for the course component. Now implement the required methods in course component.ts. Let's import a course model, course service, and add the course service to the providers. Create the required variables to fill the course items and inject our service to the constructor. So since we have injected it, we should be able to call the service in onInit method and call the get services method, and we can subscribe to it and assign the list of items to this dot items. Let's go to app module and import the necessary components for Angular 5.2 and others. Once we import this required modules and add it to imports, if we remember, we have created environments file. We need to initialize that in Angular file module dot initialize app. We need to pass this as a parameter. Once we import the necessary modules, let's verify our application whether it is working or not. It is working fine. There are no breaking changes. Now, up to now, we have built our course component. We have built our service. Now let's prepare our add course component. Let's clear the basic HTML here and quickly add a form. And for this form, we will use NGX submit, which has OnSubmit method, which we are going to create in a while. So we are going to use a basic HTML which has a label and input. For the input we are using ng model for two-way binding, and we're going to define this item in our TypeScript file. So whenever there is a value for that, it is going to be automatically binded to this input field. We have defined all the labels and input fields for this model: name, description, category, sequence number, is active. So let's create a button to submit this form, and the value is submit. We are done with the HTML part. Let's work on the add course.component.ts and import service, model, and also import router. The reason for the router is once we submit the form, we will redirect to course list page. For that, we will use the router. We need to add course service to the providers and create a variable called item with the course reference, and we need to inject course service and router in the constructor. Let's create OnSubmit method. In this method, we will add a validation for the name. If it is empty, we're not going to allow. Let's call the course service with the add course method and pass the item reference. And then we will add router.navigate to navigate to the course component. When we see the browser, hit F12, we can see that there is an error. So to fix this error, we need to add forms module to our app module. So let's quickly add that. Let's go to app module.ts and add forms module imports, and also add it to the imports array, and the error is gone in the browser. So click on add course. Here we can see. Let's quickly add a background to this form to look a bit nicer. Go to the CSS file of add component and add this class. It should automatically reflect as we have already added the class. Let's open the browser, and we can see that the background is already reflected. Before submitting the form, let's add default values for the item in onInit method. Now fill the form details and click submit. It should add the record. We can see that it is added to the Firestore database. We can go to the database and verify that. Click database. It should refresh and show our first record. Since we are using a custom unique ID, it is displayed here as first course for the ID. If we use if we are using the collection.add, it is going to generate a random ID for this. Now let's add a edit feature for this list in course component. So for that we will use anchor element. Instead of href, we need to use router link. If we notice, we have /course, add course, and item.id as a parameter. To enable this route, we need to add this particular route in app routing module. Here we can add another route with the same add course component, and the parameter is id. So this is what the ID is referred to. So when we click on edit, we are able to navigate to add course route parameter. So now let's update this edit text to icon using font awesome styles. Uh, Copy the link from font awesome and paste it in the index.html. Now let's get the edit icon from font awesome and use it in our course component. Instead of anchor element, we will use font awesome icons. Now let's update our add course component to work with both add and edit features. We need to get the URL parameter. For that, we need to use activated route. Also, we will use Angular Firestore for getting the record when it is edit state. Create a parameter. Also add the activated route and Angular Firestore to the constructor. Now using route parameters, we can get the ID value in course ID. If course ID exists, we will edit the record or it will be a new record. So we will create the method edit course. Before that, let's update our existing OnSubmit method to work for both update as well as insert. So if we have the course ID value, we will update, otherwise we will add the course. So now let's add edit course. For this, we will use Angular Firestore document reference and get the document. If the document exists, we will assign the document to the item variable. So now let's navigate to the page, click on edit and update the description. And submit the form. So the description is updated. So now our update is working. So let's add a new record. Add the second record and submit. So we have two records here. Let's update the sequence number. And we notice that it is sorted based on the sequence number. The reason for this is we have given ordered by sequence number for the collection. Now let's add a delete icon, and for that let's create a delete course method, and we are passing the item from the ng for loop. Let's add the method delete course and call the service and delete course. This item is from the loop which we are passing to the delete course. So we have added delete functionality. We can see that delete icon is here. So when we click on delete icon, it will delete the record. Before deleting that, we will add a status message to the delete functionality. So for that, we will use NGX Toaster package. You can see that we can install from npm. Let's install that. Once the installation is completed, we need to install Angular animations. There is a dependency for this Toaster package. So let's install that too. There is another step we need to add in our Angular CLI. We need to add the CSS file for this Toaster. We can find the Angular CLI here. Click on it. Here in Angular CLI, for the styles array, we'll add this Toaster.css from nodes module. Also, we need to import this in app module.ts. Let's import that Toaster module and browser animations. And we will define this as for route. Now we go to the course component and import the Toaster service. Also inject the same to the constructor. Now we can add the message. So we have added as a warning, but when we click delete, it does not reflect the styles. The reason for this is when we update Angular CLI, we need to stop and rerun ngserve command. So it will compile all the bundles again and it will reflect the changes. Now it is compiling. Go to the browser, click delete. We can see the alert message. Let's add the Toaster message in add course component as well. So for that, let's go to add course.component.cs. Here, let's import the Toaster service. Also inject it to constructor, and in OnSubmit method, once it is saved, we will add success message for course saved successfully and course updated successfully. Let's add a record. Click on submit. We can see that course saved successfully. Edit. We can see that course updated successfully. That's it. We have completed our objective of creating CRUD application using Angular and Firestore. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.